My name is Marcus Plowright. As chair of London's New Year's celebration, we've had to pivot this year, away from 15,000 Londoners celebrating together with music and fireworks, to a special remembrance of everyday heroes of 2020. Working with producer Mario Circelli, we conceived the idea for this show in November. We were able to draft a script, complete 40 interviews, secure musical rights to wonderful local songs, record live performances, title, edit, and complete this program in 4 extremely short weeks. This was made possible through the generous support of the City of London and Lerner's Law Firm. During this difficult year for the arts and production communities, every dollar has been committed to local artists, actors, scriptwriters, videographers, sound technicians, and venues. As you watch this video, remember the heroes you've encountered, your friends and neighbors on the front lines, those who've risked it all in this pandemic year.
Black and white, but every color in between. Nobody wants to be left out. Nobody wants to go on the scene. Just like that Al Green song, I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of being alone. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Chinese experts are investigating an outbreak of respiratory illness in the central city of Wuhan that some have likened to the 2002-2003 SARS epidemic. The city's health commission said
A Chinese
in a statement
doctor
Tuesday
who
that
became a
27
folk
people
hero
have
after he was arrested for warning about the dangers of the deadly new virus now spreading around the world died on Friday.
The new virus that was first identified in Wuhan has received an official name from the World Health Organization, COVID-19. CoV comes from coronavirus. The D stands for disease. The 19 represents 2019.
The first U.S. death tied to the new coronavirus has been...
The World Health Organization on Wednesday declared the rapidly spreading coronavirus outbreak a pandemic.
The Ontario government has ordered all publicly funded schools to be shut down for 2 weeks after March break due to concerns about
Prime Minister Justin
coronavirus.
Trudeau has gone into self-isolation after his wife Sophie tested positive for the coronavirus.
In major news this morning, the National Basketball Association has suspended its season. Major League Soccer is expected to make a similar announcement today. Major League Baseball has
Breaking
suspended
news today, Canada announces it is closing its borders to non-Canadians and closing the Canada-U.S.
What was
border.
once an unthinkable long shot became an unfortunate reality Tuesday morning. The International Olympic Committee and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe jointly announced the postponement of the 2020
24,000
Olympics.
Canadian troops are ready to help deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Trudeau says a new wage subsidy program will cover all businesses. The government announced that more than 1 million people lost their jobs in March. Experts project 44,000 Canadians could die of COVID-19.
Hi, I'm Olivia Sinclair Brisbane. I think we're all amazed at how quickly the party that ended 2019 turned into the fear, apprehension, and panic that became 2020. Because of the COVID pandemic, it's been a year like no other. We've learned to physically distance, wear masks, wash our hands, and meet virtually. But we also learned how important our family, friends, and neighbors are. And we rediscovered some of our heroes: healthcare workers, grocery store employees, first responders, cleaners, delivery drivers, everyday people who became everyday heroes. Using pictures, videos, some London Free Press reports, and interviews with many Londoners, we unpack the year that was 2020 and celebrate London's everyday heroes.
I got this early March, and there wasn't as much information, but I can kind of confirm at least, and there's different levels. I had it pretty bad. So you get a pretty nasty fever. I had a fever for well over a week, like, just burning up and almost to the point of hallucinating. If you've been feverish for some time, you start to lose your mind, and then trying to, self-isolate. And then I kind of knew it was a bad flu, but then the word was it turns into cough, and all of a sudden I started getting dry coughs. And I'm like, damn, I'm pretty sure I got COVID. Now, the last few days before I walked into University Hospital, it was more, I was starting to get, flashbacks. I've gone from feverish, almost hallucinations, to coughing, painful coughing that, and everything was poison. I literally lost maybe close to 10 kilos. I went to University Hospital, and I walked in, and they're like, if you got symptoms, get out of here. I'm like, well, no, this is my last resort. My asthma medication's not working, and you really need to see me. And thankfully, once I got over explaining myself for the umpteenth time, the people at University Hospital were fantastic. This is the London that we all take pride in.
It was a really hard week, having to have discussions about, but what if I don't wake up the next day? What if I wake up in the middle of the night, really short of breath? And, who's going to watch the kids? We were making emergency plans. Who's going to watch the kids? And I'm going to go to the hospital by myself, and making sure that I had things if we needed to go to the hospital, which no parent, no healthcare worker wants to ever have to do. Sorry. We think that we're invincible. It made me question everything that I do. How I protect myself at the hospital, how I protect my co-workers, my family, my husband, he's a paramedic in the city, and him bringing home stuff.
I'm home in a strange place, empty rooms and drapes of shapes, alcades, corner of my eye, I look too late. Quarter to 4, I watch the door, I watch the wall, I watch the clock and try not count backwards to where you are. If I could live forever, I would at least have time. Tell you all the reasons why. If I could breathe underwater, find Atlantis, take my hand. You wouldn't tell if I was crying. If this is it, throw me in, sink or swim. Throw me in. I watched the fog roll in that night. I've never seen it from this side. Side-strapped eyes open wide. You say it's been there all along, so what's wrong? You wanna feel it when it's gone. Take my palm and come on. Lay me down across this bay. If I could find the words, I'll tell you what's been on my mind. I wish I could breathe underwater. We find Atlantis, take my hand. If it's not too late to try, but if this is it, throw me in, sink or swim. Throw me in.
When I think of challenging days when we had to pull ourselves together and kind of put our thoughts together on how are we going to do this. We have umpteen amount of patients coming through our department.
And if I could live forever, I would at least just take my hand. If it's not too late to try, but if this is it, throw me in, sink or swim. If this is it, throw me in, sink or swim. And if this is it, throw me in, sink or swim. Throw me in.
When I first heard about COVID, it was in China. At that time, it seemed like a small threat. But I did find myself, because it was a healthcare issue, following it in the news, wondering what was happening, thinking about it a lot. And at that time, a lot of people said, it's just like the flu. Like, people shouldn't be worried. It's just the flu. But I kept finding myself wondering, why are they building new hospitals at rapid paces just to cover all the patients? They don't do that for the flu. This has to be something more. And so, at that time, I felt a bit afraid, right? And then when I found out it was in Canada, I started to feel really afraid. And I remember when they were talking about the first cases in Vancouver and saying to my husband, I'm going to get this thing. I'm really going to get this thing, aren't I? And in the back of my mind, and what I don't say out loud is, and I could die from it. And it's a very real threat to me.
I was away in March. I'd gone away the week prior to March break with my family on a sun holiday, and it was during that week that the walls started kind of closing in. It was the week before March break, and so it wasn't reckless. We didn't think to go away on the basis of any travel precautions hadn't been issued at that point. But man, did things change in such a short period of time, as everyone knows. But it was a really desperate feeling being out of country at that time, and minute by minute saying, it looks like, telling my wife, honey, I think we're going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks when we get home, and being like, can you imagine? There's got to be a way around this. This sort of denialism that says, why on earth would that be necessary? Only to obviously appreciate the full gravity of things as it unfolded, as we all appreciated as it unfolded over those very long days of March. Mike Silverman, who's the head of infectious diseases here in London, did a special presentation for the physicians in the whole hospital at Vic, and talking about this novel coronavirus and saying this is a credible threat. And that's when I thought, okay, this has his attention, and everyone is kind of starting to talk about it at that point. Unbeknownst to us, obviously, the first case had already arrived into certainly the Pacific Northwest of the United States at that point, and not long thereafter in Canada.
There was a moment when a picture circulated on social media of a hospital in China. This is, at the time they were building a brand new hospital in Wuhan in a matter of days. And a picture from a hospital that was already operating showed thousands of people crammed into a corridor, all wearing masks and all waiting to be seen for COVID symptoms. And I thought, this is just a disaster.
My husband's aunts and uncles, so his mother's siblings, are still there. So we were actually getting very detailed information about what their day-to-day lives were like. Italy put into place lockdown measures quite quickly. These are people, though, that had lived through wars, his aunt and uncles. These are people who were invaded by, foreign powers. And what struck me about their reaction was a comment that his aunt made, which was that even during a time of war, they could still go out to the piazza. They could still go and get their groceries, say hello to a friend. The fact that they were overwhelmed and so impacted by the loneliness that the pandemic inflicted really moved me.
First time when I heard, it's kind of confused because I didn't know what it was. And I realized it's getting scary, right? I'm kind of stressed.
Well, I remember hearing, reading news articles about when it was just going on in China and thinking what a, unfortunate tragedy for the Chinese population having to go through something like that. I never thought they would, make it all the way to Canada, but obviously that happened very quickly, that it found its way over here. And I don't know, I think there were a lot of people who didn't think it was going to be this pandemic. At first you read the facts and you're getting all sorts of crazy news articles where people are, fudging the truth a little here and there, because they're not actually, in China witnessing what's actually going on. But yeah, once the reality sunk in and I realized it's literally all around us, it was horrifying.
Kind of funny because I heard about it way back in, I think, December. I'm just kind of being a student that's always online, reading blogs and kind of just looking at IG posts. It seemed like really a joke, this weird pandemic and some random place in China. Didn't really take it too seriously, but next thing I know, I was kind of paying attention to my own life, doing my own thing, and then it just hit one day. My friend literally messaged me and said, "Joey, man, like, apparently school's about to lock down, like shut down completely because of COVID."
Well, I remember going to work, and I remember getting given a sheet of paper, and it was a lockdown sheet of paper, and it literally was something in case the police were to pull you over on your way to work. So you could give them the sheet of paper and it said, "Oh no, this guy's clear, he's going to work." And I was like, that's crazy. Like, we're actually that deep right now. We're in lockdown. Like, I can't go outside of my house unless I'm going to work. I thought that was crazy. I never thought that was going to happen. But it did, and yeah.
As a healthcare provider, I went right back to the days of SARS and working during SARS. And my immediate thought was, okay, let's go. Because working in emergency services, you tend to run towards the fire and want to help instead of not doing that. So we always want to run to the situation and think about the consequences after, and just do what we can to help people out. So I think I was kind of putting my coat on and getting ready to go into work at any time, at that point in time.
I wasn't concerned about having needing 10 extra beds and 10 extra ventilators. I was concerned about the orders of magnitude. What if that's, because this is exponential spread, we thought at the time, potentially, and so what if it's 1,000 extra beds? Because we don't have that many broom closets to turn into ICU beds. We don't have that many operating rooms that we can convert to ICU beds. If it's a matter of that kind of arithmetic, it's not jerry-rigging some solution to ventilate 2 people at once, which people were looking into. This is, we're in a doomsday scenario.
This is the Western Fair Agriplex, the site of the city's first COVID-19 field hospital. London Health Sciences Centre has set up 144 beds, but it could be expanded to 500 depending on need. The hospital hopes they'll never have to use it.
So our principle, first off and foremost, is that we're going to be building capacity to treat COVID patients in the 4 walls or the many walls of London Health Sciences Centre. My success point, and what I've told our teams, is the success for this facility is that we build it, we get it ready, and we never use it. The scope of this center is really going to be around treating patients who aren't critically ill. So the critically ill patients are going to be housed in London Health Sciences Centre, and this facility would be used for patients who are on the road to recovery but not ready to go home yet.
The facility is fitted out for 144 beds for the initial phase. So I'm not sure how much we would expect to see. We're hoping we don't see any at all.
London and many communities opened up a drive-in clinic. I think the one I went to was, I think in Oak Ridge. I think the first one in London.
We see their family doctor sent them. They made a call to telehealth, and telehealth sent them here. The health unit also sends them here.
Okay, so at this stage, we'd be assessing the patient for any symptoms. So the most common symptoms we're assessing for would be if they have a fever, if they have a dry cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, or runny nose, but we're also looking at other atypical symptoms. So any other symptoms they may be coming in with.
The actual swabbing itself just takes a matter of seconds. It's called a nasopharyngeal swab, so it goes in through the nostril and then to the very back of your throat there.
I think the major value is the ability to educate the public at large, give them peace of mind as to what they're doing and what they should be doing to prevent themselves from suffering from a COVID-19 episode.
This group is my family. Emergency services has been great. The medics have been great. And we're all just scared. We're scared to lose one of our team members. We're scared to lose our kids, our family members. It's not just us. Knowing that we could spread it from patient to patient is terrifying.
Regardless of how you felt about COVID at the beginning of 2020, as the year went on, it certainly impacted our lives more than any of us expected. Distancing, mask wearing, business restrictions, plastic screens, and distance learning. We began to call it the new normal, which to most of us was anything but normal.
That in my mind, it was 2 months. This was all gonna go away. We were gonna close our showroom. We weren't gonna run grow. Summer would come, we'd put on the high school project, everything would be fine, and that would be all. If you'd said it's gonna be goodbye 2020, I don't think I could have handled it that day.
It was difficult, and so those first few weeks of COVID, we saw our numbers increase. It was difficult for so many people. Of course, businesses shut down, right? So the emergency orders were in place, and people were out of work, and it was tough. And so we were helping a lot more than the 3,500 families a month.
When COVID was announced in March, Lifespin did a proactive shutdown before the rest of the city shut down, because the clients that we serve are higher risk because of disability, illnesses, poverty, and age. So we took a proactive step to put all our programs online and have people stay at home.
So there was moments where every step that we needed to go through, there was worldwide shortages of. So instead of plexiglass, we decided to put a custom-made glass, so that it was permanent and we wouldn't have any issues. But we needed to get ready to open. So I started just investing in the PPE that I knew my staff and I needed. I was responsible for my staff. I was responsible for our clients. I'm responsible for my own family, my own well-being as well, and our community at large. People who were faced with losing their businesses or who were afraid they were going to lose their businesses were calling me to talk about their employees. So one of my clients runs a very small, I'll call it service-based shop here in town, and had 3 full-time employees for the last 25 years. These are people who have sat around, the holiday table with her. These are people who have babysat her children. One of them is godmother to one of her children. And she said to me, "This feels like cutting off my limbs. I cannot imagine having to do this. How can we do this in a way that I'm going to be able to live with myself?" And of course, all of us would understand why she would have to take the steps that she was going to take, given that we were in a global pandemic. But what it reinforced to me is the humanity that exists between us all, and how these employment relationships are not just contractual in term. These are real human bonds.
Our staff has been with us, I can go on, some of them exceeding the 20-year mark. Some of our sound engineers and bartenders and security, they've been with us for a long time. So it is a family-run business, and with an extended family, which is our staff. So, it had a huge effect on our staff. Thank God, the government came in with some programs that they've picked up some stuff, helped them out a little bit. But as for the business, it just down spiral. It's really negative, and we're holding on by a thread to stay afloat till this pandemic is over.
So we have 170 people throughout our brand that we had to lay off. We kept about 4 employed during the shutdown for people that were kind of essential to what we needed to have happen still. One of the best things that we did out of all that was the owner, Rob, actually paid every single employee an additional 2 weeks' pay to get them carried over until EI would kick in or CERB would kick in. So that's something that you don't see big box stores doing. So it makes me proud to work for an independent when he actually took that time and his own money and paid every single staff member an extra paycheck just to carry them over, because we were concerned about their well-being and being able to pay the bills and feed their kids and all that kind of stuff.
At first, we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, and at that point it was, scary, but I kind of thought, okay, a forced 2-week vacation, all right, I can, pick up a new hobby, I can, get through that stack of library books I've been meaning to finish. Okay, this will be fine. We'll have 2 weeks, everyone will stay inside and be smart, and then we can go back to work and everything will be great, and the pandemic will be gone. But then, all of a sudden it's like 4 weeks into lockdown, and I'm starting to think, okay, shit, we're really we're not going back anytime soon.
I think initially when it kind of hit that this was going to be a longer process, and we switched to full online learning, I think that's when everything kind of shifted, and we noticed the biggest change, because we obviously had very little time to transition to an online distance learning program. And in terms of coming back to school, we had all of these new protocols this year, and I think this has been a lot more overwhelming than a lot of people expected coming back.
Being older and you've kind of gone through and you have great memories and you've gone through those final years of high school, and especially if it's your last year of high school, like those are some of the greatest memories you have, especially those last couple summers before maybe you're going to post-secondary. Everything is different for them. They didn't get to finish the year off strong. They didn't get to go on that final trip. They didn't get to do that big show. For some of them, it was their only show, Some of them, it was their only trip. So they didn't get to kind of do those things. So you got to really feel for the kids. They missed out on that. The hard part is sharing resources, right? Like not everybody has a computer for every single kid that they have. So just even making that work from a time standpoint, and things just take longer.
I was concerned at the beginning of the year with how little 3, 4, and 5-year-olds were going to handle wearing masks every day, all day, every day. And they are resilient little beings. They adapted so well. We have a few who, you need the constant reminder, pull your mask up, make sure it's over your nose. But they're phenomenal. They do a lot better than most of us adults do with our masks.
The reality is that this pandemic has had a very deep impact on the local arts community, provincial, national. I mean, it's international, all around the world. Many are trying to reinvent the way that they present to community or present to their audience. Many organizations are pivoting to present education programming in different ways. Sometimes that's online, sometimes it is in person, but in a very small group. Following guidelines and regulations that are required. It has had a very deep impact on the local arts community.
Oh man, anyone who is working in the arts in any capacity, this year has been devastating, absolutely devastating. There's no live performances, and it doesn't matter if you're, a theater performer, a musician, a magician, anybody. It's just so, it's been gutting. You can see it. I can hear it when I talk to, people that I work with, that they're just lost. They're just lost without, that ability to create and put it, be live, that yes, many have been trying live, streaming and doing things, but it is not the same, especially for anyone who performs live. The performers miss the audience so much. And I think that actually came as a surprise to a lot of performers.
I lost, I'm sure, 30 gigs that were already booked, not to mention the gigs that I would have booked on the other half end of the year. I lost thousands of dollars that I put towards recording and all the other costs. I lost the feeling that I get from performing. I lost my sense of connection to the world and to the community.
I was actually planning my first out-of-province show in Montreal, and then I had a touring opportunity out in Europe as well, and I had to scrap all that. Of course, that was back in March.
On a more local level, we were working with individual city councillors and mayors to sort of stabilize the community as much as possible. Businesses turned upside down, individuals with questions about their future. So helping them navigate the system, particularly in a crisis, became something that was imperative and something that we needed to do together. So it was great to work with Mayor Holder, daily calls, in fact, with the mayor in the first few weeks and months of the pandemic, and those calls certainly continue, and with provincial counterparts as well. Jeff Urich actually proved very good to work with. When we had challenges of PPE in London hospitals, I was on the phone trying to push for PPE to be prioritized for London, and Jeff Urich was making sure that that PPE would be distributed in the right way.
And I'm very grateful to work in a country where the PPE shortage was recognized and that something was done about it, right? Like so many other places you read, they ran out and there was no help. But here, we always had PPE. We had what we needed to function effectively.
It's changed my ability to practice in a more efficient manner at times. The PPE and how it is that we have to work with all this equipment on. My ability to communicate and build rapport with patients is difficult now because we're always wearing masks and face shields and gowns. We're all very type A and we have our way of doing things, and so I think it was just that apprehension and that what is this going to look like in a few months? Am I going to be at risk by this virus? Am I going to get sick from it because I work in healthcare?
Sometimes driving into work, I feel myself start to get a little short of breath, maybe a little dizzy. And then I just think, oh yeah, we're going to have the daily panic attack. And then I just kind of laugh about it and it would go away. But that became a part of the early routine, and thank goodness that stopped. After a while, it just becomes your routine. I wear these clothes. I come home and I put them in the wash, I shower, and I wash my hands a lot more frequently than I used to. I wear a mask wherever I go, but it just becomes life, right? And after a while, you stop thinking about it, and after a while, you stop processing it because this is the new routine.
We had our own challenges in regards to visitors, but could I only imagine what the nursing home staff had to deal with there, not having visitors come in, which these family members were used to on a daily basis, weekly basis, and looking forward to their family members, and staff having to say to some of these say to all of the family or the patients, visitors are not allowed at this present time during the pandemic.
Knowing what big hearts they have, I know that their patients consider their nurses at the long-term care their family too, because they do spend an awful lot of time with their nurses. Sometimes more so than their families, I imagine. And I imagine there's tears that are shed between the long-term care nurses and the residents. Yeah.
Okay.
Sitting in the kitchen, the stories you tell. Part of me sees a part of you in myself. I can't help but listen and wonder out loud about the hard life that led you to now. If I could go back then, wish I could see you when, oh, you came into the world as a little girl who knew that little girl would mean the world to me. Back in 1943.
Well, it gives us comfort that he's doing well and that he's being well taken care of.
If I could travel in time and see through your eyes, I'd see you never complained a day in your life. 4 kids in a dog, a husband on the road. You were left to carry the load. If I could go back there, wish I could see you when, oh, you came into the world as a little girl who knew that little girl would mean the world to me. Back in 1940.
It's really hard. We miss him. We, as sisters, every day we would come, one of us would come, at least 6 days a week.
Long days and longer nights, you never gave up the good fight. If I could go back there, wish I could see you. Oh, you came into the world as a little girl who knew that little girl would mean the world to me. Back in 1943. Oh, back in 1943.
The consequences of COVID were often devastating. It ravaged our seniors' homes, cost people their jobs, and impacted our emotions and even our spirituality.
That's one of the ways in which our community has been helping people who are afflicted. We don't know if they have the pandemic, the virus. We just know that they need to have this healing dance done for them.
I'm particularly concerned about the economic impact and the social and emotional impact it has on Londoners, because it really really puts a toll on both the individual and the economy, and they go hand in hand. And it's people's mental well-being you get particularly concerned about as a result of isolation, maybe having lost their job. How do they pay their rents? Whether you're a merchant or whether you're an individual, it's dramatic. And we have really a strong sense of empathy. I applaud the senior levels of government for doing what they can do, and our own level of government for taking some steps in trying to help people work through this. This will be the most significant individual issue that will impact our city and our country, I would suggest to you, in all our lifetimes. It is that big.
People were really feeling spiritually empty. I would say that we felt actually homeless in a way, and to have no access to the mosque in Ramadan, it left you in that state of being you're just unsure what to do, right? Kind of like you're not which direction to turn, where to go. like a person just wandering the streets, essentially. That's what a lot of people felt spiritually. And that was a really big thing. And I'm not sure what the full extent of the impact is.
I think of the many people in our community who've been hospitalized over this time and were in for extended periods of time and not able to have family come and see them. I think about the funerals that we've delayed through the year because we were not able to gather together to do a proper service and to offer the ritual that people so desperately need and want at a time when they're in such grief.
What we've needed to do to protect our family, friends, community from COVID has been incredibly painful for many of us in many ways. Missed opportunities, whether it's, birthdays or holidays or even weddings that have been pushed off, funerals where not everyone who wanted to could attend. These are important life milestones and times that we can never really replace in the future, no matter how good things get going forward. So I think that it's been hard for a lot of us, and especially people who don't live with others, people who live by themselves. I think it's been a real challenge from a mental health perspective.
It was because we were all faith leaders, myself, the imam, the rabbi, we were all hearing stories of people that were terribly afraid. So early on, it was a lot of fear, a lot of how are we going to get through this, a lot of when will I see my family again. But as time has gone on, there's been a couple of things. I mean, some of it has been around job loss. There's a lot of people dealing with the struggle of less income, small business owners that are worried about their long-term viability as businesses. Mental illness. Anybody who was struggling before all this it's like COVID has laid another layer on top of it.
That makes it hard to keep coming to work and treating people and looking after people and following all these rules and guidelines. And it is hard to, especially in the beginning when there was nothing to do other than go to work and be at home, it was just mentally draining.
One day we got a call that a woman was coming in, an older lady, coming in with extreme shortness of breath, and she was possibly, she was gravely ill, really, and we didn't know if she was going to make it. We had this specialized team that there to meet her that would help with her airway if she needed to go on a respirator. Everybody was ready when she came in. The resuscitation team and the team was in the room and worked feverishly on her, but unfortunately she passed. So her daughter had certainly followed in behind. The ambulance was in our quiet room, and we had to go and tell her that her mother had passed. And she was very distraught, rightly and understandably so, and crying. But she kept repeating that her daughter had written a letter to her grandma, and she had been given it to read to her because of visiting restrictions, and she hadn't had a chance to. And she was quite upset that she had not read this letter to her mother from her daughter. I said to her, I feel, and I do still feel after all these years of nursing, that when somebody passes, that their soul, their spirit, whatever you want to call it, is still sort of there. And so I put her in the room, in this ante-room that we call it, with a walkie-talkie or a baby monitor that we use to do the communication in this room. And I said to her, I want you to read that letter to your mother. And I gave her I said, nobody will hear it. You're in this room by yourself, and you go ahead and read that to your mom. And she did. I think that probably gave her a bit of comfort that she was able to do that. I mean, it's not comfort that her mother had passed, but I think that it gave her a little bit of closure. And it was really the best I could do because I couldn't let her in with her mom.
The inability to visit patients with COVID was a heartbreaking part of this journey and remains that way. And I can recall a patient who passed away from COVID, and their partner had to be there virtually through an iPad in the room, and that was how they watched their partner of decades pass away.
We never know with palliative patients when the time is, and the challenge with that would be telling this family member that they can come in. That's it. Sorry. Sorry. Because that's probably the hardest situation I probably ran into.
This song goes out to anybody who's lost someone, or if you're missing someone during these unfortunate times we're living in right now. This also goes out to my father, John. I miss you, buddy. When I was growing up, you gave me comfort. Made sure I kept a clear head. Filled the days with wonder and stories by my bed. And I hope I see you again. And I won't let the memory fade or forget the things you said. It's in reflections of my face. Well, I see you there, look mine, and I know we'll meet up, and I'll see you again. 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 Miigwech.
London's everyday heroes were shining. Essential frontline workers doing their jobs and Londoners doing what they do best in times of crisis, come together.
Millions of dollars have been spent trying to help London's most vulnerable people during the COVID pandemic. But there's still an estimated 130 to 200 homeless people who don't have a place to stay for the winter or are willing to go into shelters. Several groups throughout the city, outreach groups, are bringing in food, meals, clothing, blankets, each day down to this encampment along the Thames River. This encampment has been growing for several months, and people are worried about what will happen to these people during the winter. So a group of coalition of community groups have gathered together, and they're going to City Hall to get some help to help these people make it through the next 4 or 5 months. Places like RBC Place, the convention center in London, have stepped up with agencies like the Food Bank and 519 Pursuit to prepare and deliver meals to people here every day.
So we've been providing meals for London's most needy since I think end of April, and we'll probably continue into the warmer weather again in the spring. Well, we have this beautiful facility here. We have a really state-of-the-art kitchen. It only made sense for us to get involved because we do have the capability of providing great meals, nutritious meals to whomever. We do 3 hot meals a week, being Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday.
We deliver 75 meals a day in partnership with the London Food Bank. So our team picks it up there. We received a donation of masks, so we fill it with masks. If we have water, we also fill it in there. Kind of treat it as a little loot bag for our friends. And then from there, we have a couple routes we go, downtown, East End, along the rivers as well.
People weren't going to grocery stores, but what we've then found was then people just gave us money through the roof. So they were just as generous, but in a different way, which really tremendously helped us through that whole process.
Usually we have 15 to 20 children in the day camp program. It's a free day camp program called Pocket Sized Farms that enables low-income working families to keep working and have their children in an active, environmentally encouraging day camp system throughout the summer. And instead of 15 to 20 children this year, we actually had 249 children registered for the day camp program.
We saw a rise, unfortunately, in spousal abuse during the pandemic as people had to be in their homes with one another. And really, shelters for women escaping abuse really needed resources. And so we saw a tremendous influx of resources to those organizations. And that was really heartwarming for me to see how quickly our community came together. I have to tell you that, one night, a few weeks after the pandemic, I said, I'm going to donate a few $100s to this organization that is supporting women during the pandemic, and please match me. And overnight, I was astonished to see that we had raised $14,000 for that organization.
A lot of restaurants were supporting us, sending food. So everybody has been supportive.
And what we've seen through the pandemic is a significant uptick in thank yous. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for getting me to work. Thank you, operator on Route 7, for waving to my daughter when we're out on the street in the morning. It makes her day. That type of thing. We've seen a real increase in that. So we have seen an increase in appreciation. We've also heard anecdotally that it gave people a real peace of mind to see London Transit buses continue on the road throughout the pandemic, because it was a sense of normal for them. It's something that they were used to seeing, and they continued to see it. So I think there was an increased appreciation in the service overall, and the fact that we continue to be there for the community.
People felt so strongly about wanting to do something to support these heroes who were putting their own lives and risking the lives of their family, because we didn't know a lot about the virus, remember, when we first got into this pandemic. And so people really didn't know exactly what kinds of risks they were taking when they were on the front lines.
Quite heartwarming. I remember riding my bike through Old South with my kids, just on an evening bike ride, which we try to do because they weren't having recess anymore, of course, so they're getting all sedentary, so that couldn't happen. So so we just go evening bike rides, and people, I'd forgotten about the pots and pans, to be perfectly honest, and to be out a couple nights and people would be on their porches, and it would sort of be enough to make you tear up a little bit, and to feel particularly grateful. As I said, I didn't feel it was towards me. I felt like it's more towards the people who are providing the hands-on care right at the bedside, the people who are even like cleaning the rooms, all the way to the nurses, to the respiratory therapists, and the broader team that we work with.
Yeah, the support from the community has been awesome. Like going out, there's a few times where after work, I'm still in my uniform, and you just get all these people coming up to you saying, thank you for everything you're doing.
There was a parade earlier through the hospitals that our service participate in, and all the frontline staff and the hospital staff came out, and just that show of support really is touching. And I think it just makes you understand that, like, when you come in every day, whether it's I'm coming into the office to do education, or I'm going onto the trucks to do the frontline work, that people are behind you, and then you're making a difference for them. London's always been a city that pulls together in times of trouble and tragedy, and London's done a great job with always supporting us, no matter what we do in healthcare. And driving down the street, entering the hospital off Baseline, there was for For a long time there were people out there at every shift change banging the pots and pans, seeing the hearts that children have cut out in the windows. And just the words thank you, sometimes a smile. When people run across and they know what you do, just giving them that little smile. Because in all reality, the healthcare worker has probably looked at the face of death multiple times in that shift.
You know, I have to tell you that the community support throughout this whole thing has been incredible. Like right at the start, the community just rallied behind the healthcare workers, right? They made us scrub caps. They sent us treats to the hospital. You know, every day someone was making something new. They were trying to fill the PPE gap by making masks. Walk down the neighborhood and people have signs in their windows. And it just means so much to know that people have your back. People at random, you know, if I am in the grocery store and I have some of my workwear on, not my scrubs because like I said, they go home, but a jacket, you know, that says Peds Emerge on it, someone will just say, thank you so much for all you do. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here looking at this grocery clerk who's equally, you know, in the public's way, thanking me for my work. And it has just meant so very much to see all of the positive outpouring of support from the community.
It's not surprising that our everyday heroes are genuinely touched by the support they get from the London community. But many of them will tell you they're just doing their jobs and don't consider themselves heroes at all.
Megan's not a hero. Megan just comes to work and does her job every day and tries to do it with, you know, the best that I can and serve my community, and that's it. I'm not a hero, I'm just a paramedic, you know.
How would I describe a hero? That's a tough one, right?
Spider-Man and all those people. I love all those heroes.
I'm a huge fan of the Avengers and Marvel, and we think that those are our heroes, right?
I love Star Trek heroes. I love all that. I never watch any TV ever where there isn't a good guy and a bad guy, and the good guy always wins.
You got Batman, you got Spider-Man, Superman, love them all. Those are heroes in one sense.
Don't know if I'd say myself as a hero. What I do every day doesn't feel heroic to me. It just feels like something that I was meant to do. It's who I am.
People who do things selflessly, I guess.
Everyone who gets up and tries to get through the day, however they do.
There are definitely heroes. There are people that have lost their lives to COVID, working in ICUs and things like that. But I don't know about hero.
I mean, we work shift work. I've worked shift work for 45 years. I have worked every other Christmas for 45 years. There are easier jobs to do, like way easier jobs to do. But we are exposed to violence and sickness and fear from patients and all kinds of things. So healthcare workers are for sure, and it's not just nurses, but it is nurses as well, but it's physicians, it's our cleaners, it's our emergency technicians, it's our clerical people. Our clerical people are front line. They're the first person these people see when they come into the emergency. So all of these people are heroes to me.
My staff are certainly heroes, and certainly when you look at what they've been doing throughout this pandemic, they've gone above and beyond, and they continue to amaze me each and every day.
It's also just the people that you see every day, like your bus drivers and whatnot, like the LTC.
Well, I'm not a hero. I'm just doing my job. And the hero is the people who ever work in the hospital.
It's important that we understand heroes to be everyday people who put others forward instead of themselves, who prioritize the needs of people, in fact, who they've never met, who stand up for people that they've never come across and say, I'm going to help this person.
Teachers are definitely heroes. I think all the teachers that I've had have been heroes. All the teachers that I work with are heroes.
But you got to think about all the other folks who are trying to get us through it, right? When those essential businesses were still running, but the pandemic is raging in the first wave. You know, you think about a grocery store clerk who keeps going to work and is just checking people out and getting them the food that they need and making that happen despite the fact that they might be at risk of contracting COVID. I think there was a lot of people in the service industry in particular doing jobs that are relatively low paid, who just kept showing up for work, kept doing their thing.
It's important to also highlight our garbage pickup, our garbage people who kept working, different city staff who kept working so that we can be kept safe. So every single time you send a tweet or a message saying like, we need this and we need that door to be open and we need our garbage to be picked up and there were people behind those jobs who had to leave their families and who had to be in that unsafe situation so that you can be comfortable while we're all doing our part to stay home and keep everybody safe.
We don't know what the future will look like, but we're all hoping it will be filled with good health, good friends, and good fortunes. But no matter what the future brings, we know that Londoners will meet it head on and always with the help of everyday heroes.
There's lots of thoughts about how life will look in 6 months or a year. I mean, I think there's the vaccine offers some hope for accelerating the return to normalcy. But my hope is that in a year's time that'll be a past state and many people will have been vaccinated. On the medical side, on the precautions, we'll be shaking hands. People after they're vaccinated and after the ambient disease levels dissipate, will people still wear masks routinely?
Is it ever going to come back? I believe so. I believe it's going to come back. It's going to take some time. I mean, we're all about social gathering, never mind social distancing. I mean, we've tried a couple of things here, as you know, but it's definitely going to take some time, but I believe it will come back.
We're quite optimistic for the future, where we believe it's going to be kind of like the Roaring 20s, we'll call it, but we'll call it the Roaring 21, 22s. Where we think London will get this resurgence of a boom where they want to, get back out and reconnect with people and get face to face again, because it's been a long time since they've been able to do it.
What this pandemic has done is it's really reframed who we value in our society and how we value them. We have so many examples of everyday heroes who are doing heroic things by going into the grocery store, by making sure as a cashier that we're able to keep food, keep the food supply chain going, that we're able to feed our families.
It's a learning process. Yes, it's growing pains and it hurts to see that we are a country that has left people behind. But what we can take from this is that we're all learning and that we have an opportunity to do things differently and we have an opportunity to not choose to look away. And that together we have an opportunity to actually shift the way that we function and the way that we want to see Canada move forward.
My hope for the future is that all of this time we actually have learned something and we do make a difference and we come back bigger, smaller, smarter, kinder, keener, more innovative. I'm looking forward to things that we say, yes, this is the priority now. Black Lives Matter. Now, let's do this, right? Let's do this. I'm looking forward to that. This stuff isn't important. Let's stop doing this. Let's get this out of the way.
We need to move forward with an awareness of what our challenges are.
People now realize how much they value social relationships. I think that they miss seeing people. And now we're so aware that, what we took for granted is so important to us.
It really makes me understand when I think of how Londoners interact with each other. You know what it says? It says we believe in each other. And that says it all.
Driving down the 401, on a new way to a new beginning. I'm sitting here thinking about where I'm going, where I've been, where I stand and where I lie within right there I said what I'm gonna do. Do I be a part of your new life? Just right there when you say everything's alright, then I look at you and I say that just believe, just believe, just believe, just believe. The memories we have, they turn into life. That everything we have is just alive. Just right there when you say everything's alright, then I look at you and I say that it's time. Just believe, just believe, just believe, just believe.
What up, everybody? Seems like we're living in some crazy ass times these days, huh?
That is okay.
Let me tell you what I've been up to.
It protects others more than it protects you, because it prevents you from breathing or speaking moistly on them. What a terrible image.
Go to shake my hand. No, I don't want to shake your hand. You might have the coronavirus. You understand?
Stay safe.
Okay, now say I'm pretty sure I don't. How do you know you don't?
I just been staying inside, catching up on my comics, playing old games, smoking way too much chronic, laid off from my job, trying to stay off the topic. It's crazy nowadays, if we really being honest. I'm just trying to play it cool, play it safe and relax. Long walks up with the wife, good talks and great laughs. Trying to keep my mind busy, making songs, beats and videos. Hatters on deck, mad at its many kills of yo. I'm online, going live with some sets. Perspective and at best, keep a skeptic in check. Fret about financials, what the hell can I do? Apply for EI and hope the cash comes soon. Keeping physical distance, but socially I'm still active. Calling everyone I know through a video chat. Going out for drives, but never leaving the car. Just cause you gotta stay inside don't mean you stay where you are. I just been staying inside, trying to find myself. Staying inside, kill time, hands held. Staying inside, spending time with the wifey. I'm cool being secluded, yeah, it fits me nicely. I'm just staying inside, trying to find myself. Staying inside, kill time, hands held. Staying inside, spending time with the wifey. I'm cool being secluded, yeah, it fits me nicely.